As a kid, I loved Star Wars. As an adult, I loved skyboxes. Now, as an elderly gentleman, I love Star Wars skyboxes. This is Skybox Appreciation for Star Wars Battlefront 2. Star Wars Battlefront 2 came out in 2005, and it was developed by Pandemic Studios with just 1 year between it and the release of the initial Battlefront in 2004. They made this whole game in a year. That's why it's basically the same game. Before we dive in, I will just quick note, I'm playing this on an Xbox Series X, so the all resolution has been boosted. Anything that can be upscaled in the game has been. That does not include the skyboxes, because those are just JPEGs, it turns out. And this version does include the downloadable patch that came out way back in the day, which adds a couple of levels from the original Battlefront, as well as some other interesting things that I didn't know about until filming this video. So the broad concept, sort of the main theme of skyboxes in Battlefront 2 is low resolution JPEGs. They probably are not literally JPEGs, but when you play this game, especially on the Xbox Series X, where everything that can be up-resed is up-resed, those skyboxes stand out like a sore thumb. Some of them look like absolute dog speciality. The one for Hoth in particular, when you look at those clouds, those are some of the worst looking clouds I've ever seen. That was not a picture that was taken with the intent of it being degraded to this level. At least that's what it feels like. Some levels this is more apparent than others. Some levels it hurts it more than others. And there's no doubt that if you watch footage from far away like this, the illusion's a lot better than when I'm playing on a 4K TV on an Xbox Series X, of course. And I'm not opposed to either way. I mean, I could certainly, you can take a look here. I could throw a CRT filter on it and kind of fuzz it up in a way that helps it work. But the point is, skyboxes in Battlefront 2, these are static JPEG images. They do not move. This is like Mario 64 level skybox technology. This isn't even as advanced as Ocarina of Time, which had moving elements in it and a day-night cycle. Nah, none of that business. For the most part, these are static images loosely based on things from the Star Wars movies. Now, you've got a rich history. I mean, Mr. George Jorge Lucas, they spent millions of dollars crafting these extravagant worlds. They put hundreds, if not thousands, of people on teams that were creating these environments. So in theory, a lot of these skyboxes should just be sort of drawings, representations of things that we saw in the movies. And in many cases, that's true. Levels like Kamino, I mean, we all know iconic planet Kamino from Star Wars Episode 2. Levels like the aforementioned Hoth, that's an easy one. You got Mustafar, you got Endor. You even have iconic places like Polis Massa, you know, where Padme gave birth and then passed away. Despite the fact that this game is however many years old, 17 years old, holy hell. What a privilege it is to be alive and continue to age. Despite being 17 years old, some of these levels, especially if you bump the resolution down, they really do a pretty good job of selling the illusion that you are on the planet that you're on. Take a look at Kamino, for example. If you squint your eyes, or if I put that CRT filter on this, it really does look like you're on stormy Kamino. They did a good enough job on the background that in the heat of the moment, it sells the illusion. Hoth is another great example of this. Obviously, if you look up at the clouds, they look horrible. But out into the distance, even on the high-resolution Xbox Series X, somebody like myself, admittedly a little bit of a fool, can almost be convinced that the polygonal parts of the level actually extend all the way out into the distance with those mountains out there. Are these mountains actually from the movie in Hoth? I don't know. They're probably just pictures of the Rocky Mountains. Is Geonosis actually Geonosis, or is it just Arizona? Nobody knows. Well, somebody knows. And even for less iconic sky elements, levels like Bespin, as long as you don't walk too far out of the main areas, seeing the clouds peek through the cracks like that while you're playing, it works for the most part. It really does work. This is a fast-paced game, kind of like a racing game. You're not meant to slow down and look at things very carefully, so it doesn't really matter that the clouds don't move and that everything is really low resolution for the most part. In the context of the game, the skyboxes get a solid B+ from me. Why don't they get an A, you ask? Well, that's because in every single one of these skyboxes, the sun is the ugliest sun I have ever seen in a video game or in real life. I mean, look at this one. I'm sorry to keep ragging on Hoth, but look at the sun in Hoth. The problem, of course, is that the sun is not, like in Ocarina of Time, the sun was a separate thing that moved in front of the skybox. Whereas in this game, for the most part, the sun is a combination of an incredibly crunched up, low resolution, again, JPEG with a really bright element put in front of it that creates a generally very not nice looking lens flare. And it's a theme in so many of these levels. Bespin has an ugly sun. Hoth has an ugly sun. The only level that doesn't have an ugly sun like this is Utapau. Utapau. Hello there. That place. In that level, there's like a weird ring around it as it sticks over the edge. They just made the wrong choice with the sun. Ugly suns in Battlefront 2. You're never gonna forget that now. Perhaps one of the coolest things, and one of the things that I really came to appreciate while filming all the footage for this Skybox appreciation, is the manner in which Battlefront 2's skyboxes oftentimes are not just repeating patterns. They are not just symmetrical. They often have things that are in one part of the skybox and not in another. So for example, on Yavin 4, you look at one part of the skybox and you go, wow, a repeating overcast cloud texture. One of my favorites. How good. Turn a little bit to the right. Oh my god. What is this? This is a bespoke element, not merely in texture work. It is a texture, and it's, you know what I'm saying. Hoth has something similar. You see the big laser cannon out in the distance like that. So you've got these skyboxes that could, again, just be kind of how we think about skyboxes, which is one big repeating texture that is the same all around you, 360 degrees. It's probably about 50-50 which textures are just repeating clouds versus ones that have hand added little details. And I'll touch on some of these when I go down my list of favorite skyboxes in this game, but I wanted to bring up a couple of them. The one where I first noticed it was on Geonosis, because when you're playing Geonosis, you're kind of in this, not a bowl, but what you see of the skybox for the most part is blocked in one set by a giant kind of a mountain. And if you take the time to climb up to the top of that mountain, you get over it and suddenly, oh my lord, they got one of those donut hole ships just out over there, and it's blurry, and in the distance it's drawn into the skybox, right? It's not like an element that was added in front of it, which some of the levels also have. They got ships flying, whatever. These are things that are part of the skybox, but just only drawn in one section, which probably implies that the whole skybox is one giant file, rather than like on an N64 where it would be like a tiny file that would repeat a bunch. I don't know if that's how that actually worked, but you'd imagine it would be something like that, trickery. And I really appreciate that. I don't know if maybe it was like, maybe it was actually easier because perhaps these were just like concept paintings that they got from George Lucas. He emailed it to them, so they were already done. So maybe it was actually less work than it would have been to make their own. But I don't know. I appreciate that. I appreciate these skyboxes, you might say. And it's not just big elements like that. They also do it in tiny little ways. When you're playing on Endor, with all the little Ewoks, you're playing on Endor, you look up and it looks like blue sky, easy, okay, fine, we're in the forest, so they don't have to do any work. But if you do some work and you jump up extra high, which is what I like to do, you'll notice that they actually put a tree wall out that lines way out in the distance in a way that you probably would never see. And even if it wasn't there, it probably wouldn't strike you as all that odd if it didn't exist, but they put it there anyway. They did the work. And my favorite representation of this is on Mos Eisley. Mos Eisley. Uncha Punta Solo. We all love Mos Eisley. At first glance, Mos Eisley looks like a pleasant daytime skybox. But if you turn the camera just right, you'll see some little, beautiful, colorful streaks in the sky that almost remind me of Spyro the Dragon, which look like things that should just be repeated, but they're not. They're just in that one little portion of the sky in Mos Eisley, just these little, subtle little things. So it's not even big elements. It's not like they're like, we gotta put the ship in because it's the ship. Nah, they're just like, we're gonna put a little, just a little, whoo. If anyone can find the skybox artist for Battlefront 2, please send them my way. I want to talk to you.
Control of a command.
All right, now you want to hear what the best levels are? Here's my list of the top skyboxes in Battlefront 2. Number 1, this one is simple, but it illustrates one of my favorite things about skyboxes. We're talking Renvar Harbor. This is a Battlefront 1 level that was added to Battlefront 2. What I love so much about it is you've got realistic clouds doing unrealistic things. Big, perfect, circle-y thing. Clouds don't do this. They do not circle one particular place, at least that I know of. I suppose in a hurricane situation they do, kind of like the eye of a hurricane. It's a simple effect. It's a beautiful texture. And again, it's not like that. There's 2 levels set on this planet called Renvar, this ice level. One of them is just a medieval castle, and the other one is this one. They could have used the same skybox for both. You know, there's 2 levels set on Yavin 4. Could have used the same skybox. They don't. One of them's a beautiful sunset. One of them is a swampy cloud thing. So many corners could have been cut, and they weren't. Ah, Naboo. This one really took me by surprise. The stars on Naboo in this level are so subtle, and the sky is so black, and it's lacking in any kind of cloud textures. You know, it's just this perfect, stark black with little pinpoint stars in it. What it instantly reminded me of was Majora's Mask, which we did a Skybox appreciation for recently. On the first night of that, it's that same thing where it's this like, and this is because it was an N64 obviously, but it was just these tiny little like almost square looking dots. It's so simple that it doesn't feel real, and it adds like a smallness to how the Naboo map feels.
Command post under attack.
Mustafar, where Anakin became Darth Vader. This is an awesome, crazy skybox filled with cool textures and some moving elements, mind you. They put some flames out in the distance there. You've got this volcano spewing smoke in a way that you would never see frozen still, and yet here it is frozen because that's how skyboxes work in this game. Lava that should be flowing that doesn't. It's a weird time-stop environment full of things that you would expect to see moving and you don't. But even beyond that uneasiness, it's just a really interesting texture. There's just a ton of little tiny things to look at and a ton of detail put into it. Look at this. Zoom in on that. Do you guys know what this is? That tiny thing in the distance is the place where Anakin stood brooding after he became a mass murderer for 5 seconds in Revenge of the Sith. It is in no other place. It's not in the level, nothing. But way out in the distance in the skybox, you see a teeny tiny blurry little place where Anakin stood looking. He didn't even look sad, honestly. He just looked kind of mad. It could have just been a mountain. It could have just been a mountain and we wouldn't have noticed. We wouldn't have cared. Maybe they signed a contract when they made this game that was like, we promise we will put every possible thing from every movie in every level, which is a whole other topic of discussion that I think is really funny. The way that they mush together different scenes from the movies into one level. Absolutely hilarious. I could do a whole video just on that. It's just a very good skybox. Like it's so much of what's in it is stuff that I love. And even, dare I say, it sells the illusion of being on Mustafar if you don't look too close. Before I go on to talking about the #1 skybox in Star Wars Battlefront 2, some of you, if you've played that game, might be able to guess what it's going to be. Let's quickly mention there's one category of skyboxes that we haven't really talked about, and that is space battles. These, in my opinion, much to my great surprise, I don't care for them. For the most part, it feels like they went on nasa.gov/cp/Hubble/ royalty free and just downloaded images of the Hubble telescope and put them up, which again, it's weird that they don't do anything for me because I typically love low resolution pictures of space, but something about them in this game, even in that level Polis Massa, you know, the asteroid level, it uses one of those. The Death Star uses one of those. Fun fact about Polis Massa, actually, I discovered while doing this. But yeah, surprisingly, the space skyboxes here aren't really doing it for me. One interesting thing about them is in any of the space battles, they have the planet that you're fighting over underneath. And boy, they did not do very much work to make that look like a sphere. It extremely looks like a flat circle with clouds that move across it, first of all, way too fast, but clouds that move across it not conforming to the sphere of it at all. You know, you play that and you're flying around in space in this game, and it really makes you appreciate how far we've come with a game like No Man's Sky, which has these astonishing skies and textures and planets and things that look amazing from every single possible angle. Maybe one of you can describe to me why it is that I don't like these space skyboxes that much, or maybe one of you really likes them and you can tell me why. But they really don't do anything for me. It's something about it, just it's not hidden. Anyway, the #1 skybox in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Do you have any idea what it is? Take a look.
Fix this, turn it up right. Put together, troopers. We're still in this.
What in the goddamn hell is going on here? Never before has it seemed more apparent that this game was made in a year under the pressure of Lucasfilm so that they could get it out to coincide with the DVD release of Star Wars Episode 3. This skybox is amazing. Not only do you have a lovely skybox in and of itself, you have layers upon layers of tree walls, not tree walls, but skyscraper walls, textured into the distance, all low resolution. It's hard to tell if it's Coruscant or if it's Chicago. But the most amazing thing about it, I'm sure you saw it, they used skyscrapers for the floor. They put skyscrapers on the floor. Every other piece of Star Wars Battlefront 2 skybox art is at least attempting to follow the logic of the Star Wars universe and at least attempting to follow the logic of how skies work. But they must have been doing Coruscant at the last second, and it was George Lucas was coming in to hit stop and print the discs, and they were like, oh my god, we need to go take pictures of cars so we can put them. We don't have time. What are we going to put down there? Just put the buildings. No one will notice. Now, to be fair, there is something about the way this plays on Series X that I think the emulation's a little funky, because you can see when you do the zoom in thing, it pops in a bunch of additional elements in the distance that I think are supposed to be there, even when you're not zoomed in. I have a feeling that there's some funky, I don't know if it's emulation or what's going on, but I do have a vague memory of noticing this way back in the day when I played it and thinking it was interesting and then just kind of forgetting about it. So yeah, Coruscant is the #1 skybox in Battlefront 2 precisely for this crazy psychedelic use of skyscrapers as ground. All right, that brings us to the end of talking about skyboxes in Star Wars Battlefront 2. You guys said in the Majora's Mask that you wanted longer videos. I didn't think Battlefront 2 was going to take this much time, but here we are. There's a lot to talk about in it. I apologize if it's too long, let me know. But if you did enjoy this video and you want me to make more videos like it, please post a comment saying, hey, I liked this video. In parentheses, if you want to put it was too long, you certainly can do that. If you did not enjoy this video, please do not post that in the comments. I don't want you to trick me into making videos that you don't want to see, because I am here to serve you. If you want to be here to serve me, you can go to www.patreon.com/any_Austin. You can support me on there for $3 a month. And if you do, you get access to a regular Patreon check-in video series /podcast where I answer your listener questions. We talk about our favorite moments from 10 years of history on YouTube with this channel, and plenty of other stuff that is fun. If you don't want to support on Patreon, but you would like a t-shirt, I do have them. This is our I Appreciate Skyboxes t-shirt. Every letter is a different skybox. See if you can identify any of them. Links to all of that, of course, is going to be down below. No pressure, absolutely no pressure. The last thing I have to tell you, of course, is in my free time, I make a lot of music. That's one of my favorite hobbies. I use that music in all of my YouTube videos, and you can also stream it on any streaming services. So today, please enjoy the song. See you next time. Goodbye.